the most ethereal, weird scream that just would freak you out, and then you hear a splash. So, my deceased uncle sent me an audio recording of his death.
Take control of your life. Break the chains and rise. No more feeling powerless. No more shame. Take your power. Break out of the pain. Because it's more than fornication, more than procreation. It's not just self-stimulation. Sex energy is for creation and transformation into a new destination.
This is Porn Talk.
Porn Talk. Yeah. Change your heart from dark to light. Porn Talk. Yeah. Break free. Take back your power and rise. I said take back your power. I said take back your power. Take back your power and rise.
This is Porn Talk. Here is your host, Eric Zuzak.
Welcome to Porn Talk, the show where we break free from addiction and channel sexual energy into achieving our greatest dreams. This is season 7, episode 1, and we're kicking it off with an episode unlike anything we've done before. Trust me. Today, we're going to dive into the paranormal side of porn addiction. Paranormal and porn, a dangerous mix that for me literally led to the psych ward. And joining me is a man who's been helping me fully into my identity as Powerful Eric, William Duffin, also known as Sir William or Happy Medium Will. William, as you may know, if you've listened to the show before, is an intuitive, and he's also a hypnotherapist with a gift for unlocking the subconscious mind and guiding people towards transformation. But beyond his work in hypnotherapy, William has also played a key role in one of the most bizarre, supernatural, and downright chilling experiences of my entire life. So buckle up, because this episode, titled Paranormal Porn, a Dangerous Mix That Led to the Psych Ward, is going to change everything you thought you knew about addiction, mine, and even the spirit world. So let's dive in. Welcome, Sir William.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, Eric.
So in 2006, the St. Louis Cardinals were in the World Series. And I normally don't listen to any AM radio, but the Cardinals, that's at the time they were on the big 550 KTRS AM. And so I had it on that station. It happened to be Halloween, no joke. And I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, obviously before I was married. And I was leaving that night, and I turned the engine on, and the radio was already on, and it hopped on to Coast to Coast. You know the show, of course, William. Since it was Halloween, they had real life ghost hunters, paranormal investigators on the show. Normally it wouldn't be a show that I would listen to, but it was Halloween and it was kind of late night, and I just, popped on the radio. So I decided to just listen to it. And these paranormal investigators were very matter of fact. They were very seemed sincere. And they said that anybody could do what they do. You really don't even need any really special equipment for what they call doing EVP. What's EVP, William?
Electronic voice phenomenon. Through technology, you pick up voices that are not there physically.
So they go to some place that's supposedly haunted, and they take their little digital recorders, and they have them recording, and then they don't hear anything with their physical ear, but when they play back the recording, there's voices there, and supposedly spirit voices or ghost voices. And they were playing some of their recordings that they had got in the field, and some of them were like so creepy, like really creepy. But I thought to myself, literally anybody could fake these.
Fake, yeah.
Super fake. Like
On the surface, they seem like they could be easily fraudulent.
Yeah, very, very easy to fake. But some of them were just so clear, like they were at a mortuary. One of the ghost hunters fell down the steps, and they were just guys. And you hear a concerned woman's voice say, "Are you okay?" And there was no there was no one there was no one there except for them. So they did not hear that with their physical ear, but they did hear it on playback. And they played a bunch of examples like that. And I thought, man, like if this is real, this is like, wow, incredible. But again, this is so easy to fake. Anyone could fake this. I decided, for whatever reason, I wrote down their website, and I put it away. I came across it later. I'm like, oh yeah, that was that show. I thought, they said anybody can do this. They said, in fact, the cheap equipment usually works better than the expensive ones because the expensive equipment filters out white noise on audio, and that's what you need to do this work, is some white noise. I decided, I don't know even what inspired me. I'm like, I'm going to try this. They're like, anybody can do this. Those voices were just so like, some of them were really clear. Some of them were not. Some of them were super clear. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. I thought the best place to go would be a cemetery. So I got a little digital recorder that I got from Target. And I went, and at the cemetery, there's two main roads that go by it. There's a lot of noise. And so I went and did it, and I didn't get any voices. Well, if there were voices there, it'd be really hard to hear because they are faint and low, and you need to jack up the volume. And there was all the cars going by and stuff, and if there was something there, I didn't hear it. So I chalked it up as a failure. Like, of course, this doesn't work. But I thought, but if it would work, like that wasn't the best spot. When I was in my apartment, I just sat down. And I thought, well, it's nice and quiet in my apartment, so I'm going to record in my apartment. My great aunt, there's a picture of me with my great aunt. She's in the middle, and my brother is on one side, and I'm on the other, and she's kind of holding us in, like, for this picture. She's long deceased, right? And I just thought of that picture. It still just freaks me out. Like, I still to this day, I mentioned that picture, and I'm recording. Play it back. It chills right now. I play it back. There's a really whimsical, ethereal, very quiet voice that says, "I love you both." It's like I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. Like, and this was 2006. So my deceased aunt, great aunt, knew that we were both in the picture, and I was referring to that picture with me and my brother. She says, "I love you both." And like I said, and it was even like something out of the movies, because the way it came across, it wasn't just like us talking. It was really whimsical, ethereal, breathy, but it did have the quality of the way she sounded, though. Even I could give you example after example after example of doing different EVPs, like with my deceased grandfather. So I used to believe that there was another side. You know, I used to believe that there was another side, right? But now I can definitively say I don't believe. I know, like I know for a fact there is another side. Like zero doubt. I know for a fact there is another side. I don't say that out of ego, like, oh, I know this. Like, it's true. Whether you believe it or not, there is another side. There's a spiritual world that is very real. And I'm I can't believe I'm going to tell this story, but I'm going to tell it. It's the most insane thing that I have ever heard. And I've never heard anyone that's had this an experience like this. So here's the story. My uncle worked on nuclear subs, and his work was really secretive. He was out on a fishing trip on a boat. He was missing. He was gone. Like, no one knew what happened to him. We presumed he had drowned, but no one knew. My grandpa at the time thought, well, maybe he was murdered. He was killed because he had this top secret stuff. And none of us believe that, though, because the hand on the boat, this was one of those boats where you had to pull the rope
Cord, yeah.
cord to start the engine, but the rubber thing on the end and the rope had broke. So they presumed he had pulled it, it broke, and then he went over with all his hunting and fishing gear on. And so he was eventually found. So a guy fishing and his son found his body. But there was this question, like, what really happened? So I asked. I got a picture. I had a big picture of my uncle in front of me. And I asked on the recorder. And for the that are listening to this, I wouldn't believe me if it didn't happen to me. I'm just being honest. Like, if you told me this story, I'd say this can't be true. So anyway, I'm recording and I've got a picture of my deceased uncle in front of me. And I asked the question, like, Grandpa and Grandpa thought that you were murdered. We don't believe that. We thought you pulled the cord, it broke, and you went over. But what happened? And like with EVPs, you get super short, like maybe a word, maybe a single word, or maybe a little bit longer. They're very short and they're hard to hear. You have to jack up the volume. Often you have to put it in the computer to filter out to hear the voice. So anyway, I asked what happened. On the recording, you hear an engine, like somebody, you hear, you know, you like trying to start that boat's engine. You hear that. Then you hear the most ethereal, weird scream that just would freak you out. And then you hear a splash. So my deceased uncle sent me an audio recording of his death. In all my work, when I opened this door, I went in deep. I studied everything. I read all the books. I took all the classes. I mean, you know, I literally I started working at a metaphysical store to learn more, started giving my own classes. I knew so much about it. And since then, I still have not ever heard of this happening to anyone ever. Like, your deceased loved one sent you an audio recording of their death, because he said, you know, you hear the boat, the engine being pulled, you hear his scream, and I don't believe that was his audible scream. it was like, it's hard to describe. It was like a soul scream. Like he knew that, I don't know how to describe it, that the scream and then the splash in the water. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is unbelievable. So I go to my dad. I go to my dad and I'm like, first I got to explain what I'm doing. Like, what? You know, like it's so crazy. It's so insane. The only way you could hear that recording with the volume all the way up, like you wouldn't hear it if you just were casually listening to it. So at the time I had the audio recorder hooked to this cassette thing with a wire that I could play through my car and then jack the volume all the way up. I'm like, this is the only way that he's going to be able to hear it. So I'm like, come out to the car, I jack the volume all the way up, and I told him what I do. What I'm doing. You're trying to talk to dead. Why are you trying to talk to dead people? Anyway, yeah, Dad. I'm trying to talk to your brother. So, anyway, I play the recording for him. I've never in my entire life seen my dad cry once ever. Not even close. In fact, I was there the night we got a phone call that his dad, that my dad's dad, my grandpa died. I was right there. And when he got that call, nothing. Like you'd think you might get a little, teary-eyed maybe, but nothing. But in that moment in the car where I'm playing that recording for him, he didn't cry. But I could see his eyes start to tear a little bit. He said, "I believe you." And then he said, "How is this possible?" And I said, "I don't know. Like, I don't know." But it gets weirder. Like, if that ain't weird enough. So we go inside, and of course, both of us are like heightened energy. We walk in the door. I've got the recorder in my hand. I don't remember what I asked, but I put it on. It's something to my dad's brother, my uncle. And I wanted to even though he said he believed me, but I wanted to give, dude, like that. Oh yeah, I wanted to do a recording right there with him, live with my dad. So I said something, and then we got another Class A EVP. A Class A is one that is you can definitively hear without any doubt. And some of the EVPs come through really weirdly. This one came across really weird sounding, and it said, "Ask him about the horse." I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So I just said it out loud. I said, "Dad," it says, "Ask him about the horse." My dad looked like, whoa. He's like, "Well, when we were kids, we lived in this St. Louis City. And if you're in St. Louis City, you know that all the houses are really crammed together, usually in really small lots. You might have a little tiny one bedroom or one car garage that's detached in the back." What my dad told me is, well, there was this neighbor that kept a horse in his garage. And only him and my dad would have any clue what that is. And so he's like, that's what he's talking about. Yeah, when we had a neighbor that had the horse in the garage. That was proof for my dad that it was my uncle. And so I have example after example after example of all these. I went on to deeply research this. I actually started giving my own classes on this, teaching about this. This is the first time I've ever really publicly, besides those classes, in a big public way to talk about this. And to be real honest, it scares me more talking about this than it does the porn, being addicted to porn. That's how taboo. You think porn is taboo? Talk about talking to dead people. And you know this well. But William is a medium. That's what how we got hooked up. He's a happy medium Will. Talk about taboo. Well, William and I share that part of things too, that, his work is kind of taboo. My work is kind of taboo. That's why I wanted to create this show, Porn Talk, because it's not just about breaking addictions. It's about breaking belief systems. And when I talk about something pornographic, I don't necessarily mean, sexual pornography. I mean, like, oh, what we're talking about is pornographic. Like right now, talking to dead people, that's pornographic. Like, how can you talk about that? At the time, I was also deeply addicted to pornography. Strange things started to happen. One of the weirdest ones, had some things that I didn't see them move. Like, I didn't see anything float across the room. But I'm like, I did not move that. I live in this apartment by myself, and I had some weird thing, like pictures falling off the walls. One of the scary, started. My tongue turned black.
Oh yeah.
I was doing this story for my stories in a limited way in my book, Think Big, with Brian Tracy. My story's in there. And they didn't want me to put that part about the black tongue in there. So I removed that. So I had all these weird things start to happen, really scary. And I started to develop what I call EVP ear. And EVP ear is, that's something I coined, by the way, EVP ear. And that is, you do EVP enough that you don't need the recorder anymore. You've opened a psychic door, your crown chakra. And I literally felt like something was on my head, playing with the hairs on my head. And I was really concerned. I thought something was wrong. I went and talked to a mutual friend of ours who's a psychic. He assured me, he said, Eric, there's nothing attached to your head. He said, your crown chakra is opening more because of all this psychic paranormal work that you're doing. And he said, some people physically feel it. He said, most people don't. Most people do not feel anything. But I literally felt like there's somebody with their hand on my head doing this. And so what I started to say, when I realized that it was not that anymore, I'd say, oh, my spidey senses are tingling. My spidey senses are tingling. I mean, it's literally a tingle. All that started happening, and the black tongue, and then I didn't need the recorder anymore. And when I didn't need the recording anymore, they weren't saying nice things. Now, I know immediately people are in the bit, oh, he's got, what do you call it?
Schizophrenic.
Like, oh, he was schizophrenic. He's schizophrenic. And so I was really frightened. And one night, things got so bad with what I was hearing and the black tongue. And I went to my dad's and I said, I need help. And we all went. I was raised Catholic, so we went to an adoration chapel that was open 24 hours. I went there with my mom. I went there. Oh my gosh, my friend John. I didn't even think about that. We all went to the adoration chapel, and we literally spent the night at the adoration chapel, like the entire night, because I was afraid even to go outside in the dark until the sun came up. My poor mother, she was holding her bladder for a really long time. So when we got home, my dad's like, what do you do with this? He's like, we got to do something. He's like, maybe you should go to the hospital, because I voluntarily went to the hospital. Of course, they put me in the psych ward. We got a live one here. When I got there, that got really weird too. I left out a big thing on why I went to the hospital. I went to go see a Catholic priest. He's a psychic Catholic priest. They don't call it that. They call it his gift of discernment. I went to go see him. This is literally something I got out of the movies. Like, I went to go see him. We're in a parking lot. I'm going to see him. And guess what happened to me in the parking lot? I threw up. Like I literally threw up. You know, like the Exorcist. You know, you have to throw up. I literally threw up in the parking lot, and I opened the door on my car, and I thought, "Oh my God, I must have left some food in my car is rotting. You know, like there's something in my car that is putrid. You know, open my car, like something's absolutely putrid. It literally smelled like somebody a dead. I've never smelled a dead body before, but I would imagine this is what it smelled like. And I searched my car high and low. I realized, then it just dawned on me. One of these things is making me smell this. And it was bad, like it was bad. So anyway, I'm turned myself into the hospital. I go to the psych ward, and would always have trouble sleeping. So one night I was having trouble sleeping, and people would there's literally a padded room there, and sometimes people would sounds weird, would go in there to sleep, like if it wasn't occupied with somebody that was sick, people would go in there to sleep. So I'm like, I'm having trouble sleeping. And that room's got to be dead quiet because of it's literally padded. So I went into and slept in the padded room. The paranormal and porn is not a good mix. Tune in next week to hear the exciting conclusion of paranormal porn.
Thanks for listening. If you're struggling with porn or sex addiction, reach out to Eric at powerfuleric.com.